All right, welcome. My name is Hannah Swager with The Exchange, the career office at Marion University, and we have joining with us today Claire Crane, who is a graduate of Marion University. Claire Crane graduated from Marion University in 2016 with a BA in English and History, earned her Master of Arts in English at Xavier University. Did I say that right? I think
Yes.
so. Okay, good. And now works as the Academic Resource Center Assistant Director of Tutoring Services whew, at
Yes.
Marietta College. She runs the Writing Center and Tutoring and Learning Center, teaches sections of freshman composition, student engagement, and tutor training course, and volunteers at a local historical house museum, which is really awesome. So, welcome, Claire. And I'm so glad that you could tune in with us virtually to share a little bit about your career today with other current liberal arts and English students, just to kind of see what your path has looked like after Marion. Can you start us off just by letting us know a little bit about yourself and what your time at Marion looked like?
Yeah, so thank you so much for having me. And I think this is a really great, opportunity or resource, I guess, for students to have, just some additional perspectives about what next steps look like for, an English major or a liberal arts major. I was definitely all about the liberal arts when I was at Marion. I had 4 fantastic years majoring in English and history and minoring in German. I worked as a peer tutor for 2.5 years at the Writing Center, which really inspired me into the path that I'm on now. And I also participated in theater, psychology club, so all about those liberal arts. And I just really loved, my time there. Getting to read and research and write about, all different subjects and see the connections between disciplines, look at problems and issues in different ways, different lenses. So, yeah. Anything else about my time at Marion?
Yeah, can you talk a little bit about what it was like picking a major? Because you have very diverse interests, and I think that that's common. At least that was my experience as a liberal arts major. I was interested in everything, so I was like, okay, English, you get to read about everything. Let's go with that. So I'm just wondering what your process was like, given your diverse interests.
Yeah, so I knew when I was in high school, leaving to go to college, that I wanted to double major in English and history, and that was just loving like stories, factual and fictional, getting to read about all sorts of things and put myself in other people's shoes. I also really loved to write because I was shy and I really liked to put all of my ideas and thoughts on the page and then share them with people. So I really gravitated towards that writing as well. Um, yeah, so I think those are kind of the reasons why I gravitated towards those subjects in particular.
Awesome. Thank you. Now talk to us a little bit because I feel like as a fellow English major, I often got the question like, so what are you going to do with English? Anyway, so like talk to me about your career path, like following graduation from Marion. Like how did you discern what were your next steps and what are some areas that you considered, I guess?
Yeah, so definitely was in that position where, people ask, well, what will you do with that? Will you teach? Or, and, nothing wrong with teaching, but it wasn't something that I was like, oh, I want to do that full time, I don't think. So I don't know. So I remember that at the end of my time at Marion, it was tough because I was trying to send out applications for grad school. I was thinking maybe I'll do like a PhD program in literature because I still really love that literary analysis part of things. And maybe I'll work at the Writing Center on the campus too as a graduate assistantship. And while I didn't get into those PhD programs in literature, I had some great mentors on campus who worked with me on applications and, keeping my mind open in terms of different opportunities. And I ended up finding the MA program at Xavier, and they had a graduate assistantship at the Writing Center. So I got into that program, got that assistantship, and that was 20 hours a week working in the Writing Center in more of a leadership role than I'd had before. So I got to spend a lot of time working one-on-one with student writers, working with other tutors, supervising and mentoring. In my classes, I had more rhetoric and composition classes. So not that I still didn't have my literature classes, but I was finding myself, I guess, again, gravitating towards some of those writing and composition courses. And at Xavier, there was also a mentorship program with the community college in Cincinnati. So I could start teaching. So I taught some sections of first year composition and had mentorship through that. And that was challenging, but gave me some really great experiences. All of these things kind of helped me realize, maybe I don't want to go for a PhD in literature anymore. Maybe I want to do more in terms of Writing Center administration. And I would like to do a little teaching, not full time, but, having some writing classes that I could offer at the school that hopefully I'd run the tutoring program at. And then ultimately, after my graduation from Xavier, putting out applications, I was still teaching at the community college, and then the job opening at Marietta came across my email, my inbox, and I applied. And I think, it was kind of a dream job in that it was in a historical city, small liberal arts college like Marion, so it felt very much at home. And it was a writing center and subject tutoring program position. And so I think, that like my liberal arts background and loving all sorts of different disciplines also really gave me some confidence in leading not only the writing center, but also the subject tutoring, because even if I didn't have expertise in all of those areas, I could definitely relate to the tutors and the different departments that I'd be working with still. So yeah, my path wasn't always the smoothest. I know that it can be challenging when you're like, I really love these different things, but how do I turn that into a career? But I hope that folks can take encouragement from my path, that you might not go in the direction that you thought, but you'll wind up in just the right place when doors open up for you. So.
I appreciate that. I think that that's the best career advice. Just you always end up in unexpected places. I'm always asking people how they did, and it's sometimes some really uncommon ways. I'm hearing some awesome themes to what you're talking about. You mentioned mentorship of different people in your life through multiple stages of this. Anyway, and I know this wasn't on my list of questions I sent you ahead of time, but I wanted to ask if you had any advice for students about finding a mentor or finding mentors and how to talk to them about your career.
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's something, one of the things that I didn't quite emphasize in my career path response I was thinking back on was, I found, mentorship in the Writing Center, that having that sort of like job experience on campus, or I didn't have an internship, but I know my sister had an internship during her Marion days too, and those are great opportunities to kind of figure out what you like and don't like in terms of working and discovering different paths. But in terms of the mentorship part specifically, not being afraid to have conversations, drop by office hours, or talk with, your supervisor on your campus job, or, if you are in a class that you really love and you want to talk more about that subject with a professor and hear about their connections, what they know about that field, even if it's not in your major too. So, if it's not your major, it could help you see some different ways that your skills and your perspective could be valuable in a different field or discipline. And yeah, in terms of mentorship during my grad school days, Yeah, just taking some risks or opportunities. Like, like I mentioned, I'm a shyer person, but tutoring really helped me, on a one-on-one basis, really overcome some of that, or, become more outgoing. And I wasn't sure if, teaching would be right for me, public speaking. But then once I jumped into that program and started teaching, I had other folks who were also teaching, who were also in grad school, that I could talk with my experiences about, and then people who are running the program that I could reach out to, not just sitting with questions or concerns, but going to them and exploring options. Taking that risk or that leap meant that, I realized, oh, I can do this. I can do the public speaking part. I can, I can, ask questions and learn more, get better at what I felt I was doing pretty well in already, but, I could always improve. So yeah, I think that just, not sitting with questions, but, asking them. So your professors, your supervisors on staff, people who are running programs you might be in, are there to, help you figure out your path, and figure out what your strengths are. So.
That's awesome, and that's excellent advice. I appreciate your emphasis on building one-on-one relationships through tutoring and different things like that. And I feel like so many people don't realize the value of those until the end. So use
Mhm.
those opportunities to have those conversations. I love it. Um, can you talk a little bit more about what your day-to-day looks like? Like what's a day in the life for Claire Crane in your career?
Yeah, so it's interesting because I didn't think that I would be a person who would like having a day that, or a job that doesn't have a typical day. But that is the case for me, as the semester goes on, different times of the year. But yeah, so as the Assistant Director of Tutoring Services, I run both of the tutoring centers, Writing Center and Tutoring and Learning Center. And that staffs around 15 to 30 peer tutors, depending on the time of the semester. And so in terms of managing those student employees and connecting them with students who are looking for tutoring, I'll come into the office in the morning, turn on the lights in the tutoring center, get settled, and then open up my email and kind of clear those. I get questions from students looking for a tutor, so I help them figure out how to sign up and who they should connect with. I get emails from faculty or calls from faculty with recommendations for potential tutors, or maybe I'm hearing back about a collaboration that we're planning. So like some group tutoring sessions or exam sessions or exam review sessions with tutors leading. And then I might also be hearing from tutors, that they have updates to their schedule or other things coming up. Early in the week, I also tend to have some logistics and things. So I have like approving time cards and payroll and, updating numbers for the Academic Resource Center in terms of who's coming into tutoring. Then, I might have a lot of one-on-one meetings. So I'm in charge of recruiting, hiring, and training my student staff. So I might have interviews with tutors. I might be reviewing applications. I might be having tutor check-in meetings. So just this past week, I had a lot of end of semester evals with tutors to help them work on their professional development. And then I might also be having academic coaching meetings because as a staff member with the ARC, the Academic Resource Center, I'll talk with students about writing skills, study skills, time management, organization, stuff like that. And then other things that might happen during the day. I might have class visits where I go to classes and tell folks about tutoring. I might be running workshops. So this semester I had some workshops with faculty about how you can take tips from tutoring sessions and apply them in the classroom. And then I might, depending on the semester, if I'm teaching, use some time to lesson plan or grade, and then maybe do some research too. I've been doing some surveys on writing center perceptions of it on campus. We just piloted asynchronous tutoring, email tutoring, since Zoom fatigue hits. I've been seeing a lot of students say, "Oh, I didn't want to go on Zoom, and email worked really well." So I've been, doing some research too, just to make sure that we're giving the best tutoring services possible. And then otherwise too, I'm getting those emails, but I'm also sending them out, like other collaborations with different departments on campus, the library, the Communication Resource Center, different professors. So that's something that I really love about my job, that I'm collaborating and working with different folks all around campus too. So yeah, busy days, but lots of fun stuff.
Yeah, a lot of collaboration. That's awesome. Um, can you tell us, this is like a two-part question. Can you tell us the greatest
Yeah.
challenge of your job and also your like greatest joy in your job, I guess. I like to pair those together because it's not, we don't love 100% of what we do all of the time, but I just want to know like some of the challenges and then what do you find joy in?
Yeah, I think that's a really important point to make, that there are days where I come in and I'm like, I can't believe I get to do this for a living. And then there are other days where, it's more of a slog. And so, you have more days that are, loving it than those others, but definitely a part of it, whatever job that you end up taking, even the dream job. So, so in terms of challenges, I would say, when I first started, really like getting the administrative side of directing a program down, the logistics of it. So, thinking about budgets and payroll and policies about how to schedule hours, and, what training to cover when, because I run monthly staff meetings with my tutors. But over time, I've figured out different systems that kind of help me make those parts of my job more manageable. And I think another challenging part that's kind of both, like a challenge, but also something that I really love about my job is helping tutors develop professionally, and talking about, different skills that they're learning on the job that they can, apply in the future. Their communication skills and interpersonal skills, their professionalism, that it's wonderful to see my tutors really thriving with those different, sessions and skills. But sometimes you have to have a tough conversation with a tutor too about, addressing where they could improve. And so that can be kind of one of the challenging parts of being a manager and director in that kind of role. But in terms of how, like my favorite part of my job, or things that I really love about my job, that I really love, like educating peer educators is what I do, in terms of I love researching and coming up with engaging and trainings that I can do with my tutors, to help them, take tools and strategies and apply them in their sessions. So, I love, this semester we were doing communication skills, setting goals, role modeling, study skills. We put a blog together with different study skills and writing skills. In the past, we've done like learning theory and schemas. We've done implicit bias and inclusion. So I love taking different articles and books, and then bringing that to the tutors, and having them practice and apply things to tutoring sessions. So yeah, that would be one of the things that, I love a lot, just that, some days I'll sit down with, some different readings or different videos or tools, and then, put together lesson plan, a great training, and then give it, and see tutors talking with each other and problem solving together. So I really love seeing that.
That's awesome. I'd love to see your your strengths in action there, especially as a liberal arts student. I wanted that kind of leads into my next question because I wanted to ask, how do you use your liberal arts degree in your role? But I also want to add on there, like, how are you using your strengths as a former English and history and German student? How are you using your strengths of your liberal arts background in this role? But also, like, what are the strengths of a liberal arts background, like in the world after Marion, let's say, in the job market?
Yeah, so just in terms of liberal arts more broadly, I had already kind of mentioned it that one of the biggest ways is that, I work with tutors and professors and folks all across the campus that come from different backgrounds. So my liberal arts, experience helps me to connect and relate with them. And I would say, in terms of some of the things that I do on the job, like even though I didn't major in like sociology, psychology, communication. These are things that come into play when I'm like prepping training for tutors or working with them. They're things that inform my practice and my advertising too. That was another thing that I do, not every day, but it's on the list of tasks to spread the word about tutoring. But yeah, I would say in terms of those liberal arts skills and even specifically like English and history and German, some of those that I had, I think like the reading and research and writing skills that I practiced in all of those different classes, thinking about different audiences and how to reach them, gathering context so I can better understand, a problem or a situation. And thinking critically to make, like strategic decisions after gathering all of that evidence or that context are all things that I feel like were really strengthened as, an English major, a history major, a German minor. And I think that, as an English major, you learn a lot about, like communicating effectively, empathizing with others, and doing that research, reading into situations, into, the materials that you have, and then, how to creatively kind of solve problems, present information. Yeah, all of those things I think have been really valuable to me as I've continued on, even though, I'm not writing papers, although I'm fully with some research. But even though I'm not, reading literature for my job or, studying history and presenting on historical periods for my job, the skills that I learned in doing those things still definitely come into play in my position.
100%. I definitely appreciate that perspective of how that's informed where you are now. Are there any additional pieces of advice that you would give to students who are interested in pursuing your field and going into academia and or like writing center management? I feel like you do a little bit of everything, but is there any career advice that you would offer for students who to whom this sounds like interesting? Like I'd love to have that kind of role.
Yeah, absolutely. So for my position or field, particularly like the Writing Center Administration or Student Support Services. So, if you love being a student, you love learning, and you want to continue doing that even in your job, working on a campus or teaching too, like I do a little, I would say, like for me, it was really big to have that experience being a writing center tutor. So, if on campus there are opportunities to, work in the academic resource center or its equivalent, or to tutor, to, work in these different roles in the library or other spaces, definitely go for them. And then as you work in those positions, I know in the writing center there was a student leader board. We went to a conference during our senior year, or my senior year, and that was really inspiring. So taking those opportunities too for, doing some research or leadership, talking with your supervisor, like I had mentioned, and having that kind of mentorship kind of come about. If they can give you advice too, about your specific experiences, classes, things that you're doing that could help you kind of lead towards that field or that career. Yeah, so finding those opportunities and taking them. And then also, if grad school is kind of the next step or something that you're interested in, looking at those assistantships. It's great financially to have an assistantship, but also, finding one that's meaningful to you. So, if there are teaching assistantships, if you want to explore teaching, go for it. If you, are interested in writing center work like I was, there might be an assistantship like there was at Xavier, where you could do more of that leadership. And then also at Xavier, there was that, teaching work that I did too. So, finding opportunities to explore those, even on that part-time or internship basis, or student staff campus employment basis, so you can see if it's a world that you're interested in diving into.
That's great advice. Just experience the things. If you're interested in
Yes.
it, go for it. And if you find out that that's not an experience for you, then that is an equally beneficial and educational experience that like
Absolutely.
in my experience, I found that. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Are there any other highlights of your career or anything that you'd like to add for students who are watching?
Yeah, in terms of highlights, other than that, like seeing my tutors thrive, like when I watch an observation of a session and I see them, really
Mm.
supporting a student, it's so great to, watch a session and see them just really going for it and doing their best. But one of the highlights recently was that when I first started here, there was we have a tutor training program that's certified in a way that I hadn't encountered before. The College Reading and Learning Association certifies our program. So it was coming around the time that we needed to recertify it. So that was where the reading and research and writing skills really came in again, that I had to kind of look at the materials that my predecessor had in my position for training. I looked into books and articles and kind of revamping the tutor training program here, since there were a lot of great materials, but the way it was structured maybe wasn't the best fit for our program. And so then getting all of that onto paper, dotting all the I's, crossing all the T's, applying to get recertified. And then last spring, we found out that we were recertified, and the reviewer said that it was like one of the strongest applications they'd seen. So
Oh,
just,
that's a compliment. Awesome.
yes. So,
Good for
um,
you.
yeah, thank you. So it was just one of those that, it could be also encouragement to students that if they don't feel like they meet 100% of the requirements, like my background was in writing centers, but I also had the liberal arts, so I felt like I could do the subject tutoring too. I had done a lot of tutor training. I had taken the tutor training class in undergrad and in grad school, and I'd helped with that. And even though I didn't have experience with that particular form of certification, I was able to, take the skills that I had honed in my studies and, figure that out. So I think that can be important too, that, they might not be asking for specifically an English major, or they might not, be, they might have one or two things that are like wants and not needs on the applicant or on the job description, but you probably have that with your liberal arts education, you probably have the dynamic skills that you would need to meet those requirements or that job opportunity. So yeah.
Yeah, so often I find like working in career services that employers don't necessarily care what major you are
Mhm.
necessarily, just that like your interests and your background are in fields that would benefit their office anyway. And so often in academia, like they like you can use your own angle. So I appreciate
Yes,
that. And I think that that's really beneficial for students. So thank you for that.
absolutely. Yeah.
Anyway, and thank you for joining us. That's all of my questions. So if you don't have anything else to add, I just want to thank you so much for sharing today, and for agreeing to record this for future classes of English majors at Marion University. So thank you so, so much. And to those who are watching, um, just pursue what your interests are, and seek out experiences to try new things when you're in college, and seek out opportunities to hear more perspectives like you are right now, watching. So thanks so much, Claire, for joining us and for contributing this valuable advice for students in their careers and their academic paths.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And if anyone wanted to get in touch with further questions about, my path or the field that I'm in, I'm happy to, talk with anybody Zoom or WebEx or email. Um, yeah, and I think one other parting note that I wanted to add to is that I love what you mentioned about, like it doesn't necessarily matter what your major was. You can always bring in your unique perspective, like from your major into your work, and the skills still apply. Another thing that I've found too is that you know, no matter what, your passions can be a part of your life and really enrich, like what you've studied can still, enrich your life both in and out of work. So, in part of my bio, I mentioned that I volunteer at a history museum. Somebody might say, looking at my job, like, you don't use your history degree or your German degree. And I would say that they're wrong because I do in my volunteering and my hobbies. I volunteer at that museum. I taught a German class for kids at a summer camp there. I participate in living history events, and I would do that for free, but sometimes I get paid, so that's nice.
Oh, that's so
Um,
fun.
yeah, so uh, that work is an important part of your life, but it's not everything too. So, if you have skills and you enjoy what you do on the job and you can get some of those passions, particularly in there, that's wonderful. But, even though I'm not reading literature or doing history things at work, I can still do those outside of work too and find even more fulfillment. So that's just another tip too, for students who are wondering like, how can I still have my passion in my life if it's not in my job specifically? So,
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think that anyone has like just one passion as well. So
right.
like I
Yeah.
think that that's an important message to hear because I feel like we're in this zone so much in college where it's like or I felt a lot of pressure like I have to have direction. All of these things have to mean
Mhm.
something. And I'm like, you know what? In hindsight they do because they ended up forming who I am today. So I really appreciate that.
Exactly.
And anyway, just thinking of the person as a whole in their career, I think that that's important. So, all right.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so, so much.
Yeah, and thank you for having me. I really appreciate getting to, yeah, share my story. So hopefully to encourage others as they, major in the liberal arts.
Absolutely. And this is like all of the advice that I give students as well. So I appreciate hearing it from somebody who's on a track that would be so appealing to so many students in the liberal arts. So thank you.